starting to Zion, Aleph, 2 lines from the bottom. We had 3 cases. 3 cases regarding kalayim. You want to plant on one side of the wall vines, on the other side of the wall you want to plant grains. One was if the wall was less than 3 tefachim. Then you needed to have another picket fence. You need to have another post within 3 tefachim to create the wall. Within 3 tefachim. The next one was if the wall was in between 3 and 4. So also you needed to have in between the walls the same size as the wall. That's what we said. Gemara says, when you said before that pachas mishleisha, that if the post is less than 3, that if the post is less than 3, then you need to have the posts need to be within 3 tefachim of each other. Whose opinion is that? The Gemara answers, Rabbanani. That's the Rabbanan. Damri pachas mishleisha min lavet shleisha leim min lavet. They said that 3 tefachim is lavet. So this is considered a solid wall because the posts will create the wall because there's no gap larger than 3 tefachim between them. The only problem is that when you get to the next case, then it gets a little confusing. That was the first case, the posts themselves are less than 3 tefachim. In the next post, the distance one from another needs to be within 3 tefachim. The next case is a maseifa, kolsher shleisha mishleisha vadaba, if the post itself, in other words, the wall itself, is the mechitza, is 3 tefachim, or it's in between 3 and 4 tefachim. So we said that the gap in between should not be larger than the wall. It says also Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, that fits with Reb Shimon ben Gamliel because he holds that 4 tefachim is lavud. So now it's saying that you really have lavud of up to 4 tefachim. Damar pachas me'arba lavud. Di Rabbanan, because we're on top of Yud Zayin, 1 line down. Di Rabbanan, mishleisha v'adarba. What are you telling me between 3 and 4? Shleisha v'arba chadu. Once it's 3, then it's already out of the share of lavud, and 4 is out of the share of lavud. It's the same thing. If it's Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, then it goes until 4. Lavud goes until 4. So how could you tell me it's Rabbanan? It sounds like if I would just read the Seifa, and it says if the wall is 4 tefachim, you have up until the same size of a gap in between wall to wall, in between these 2 partitions of up to 4 tefachim. It sounds like lavud is 4 tefachim. If it would be the Rabbanan, then lavud should be 3 tefachim. It should be, the gap should only be 3 tefachim. Amar Abaya. So we have 2 approaches here. One approach is to say that the entire Mishnah is the Rabbanan, lavud is 3 tefachim. And that's how we learned it before. And if there's any confusion here, Abaya's approach is the way that we learned it. And you'll see shortly that everything is very clear. And then there's Rabba's approach. Abaya says, Midresh Rabbanan Seifen Ami Rabbanan. Rabbanan, it's all 3 tefachim. Umayd Rabbanan, the Kol Lemishra Kenegdai, Yekum Makam Arba Chashav Ilai Lei Chashav. Let's see if I can pull up a picture just to clarify. Oops. It's too much. Zion, we're on to Zion, right? Okay. We're asking on this case here. This case says that if the walls are within 3 and 4 tefachim, then the gap in between could be the same size as the walls. They said, it sounds like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Abaya says, no, it's not Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. It's the Rabbanan. So how could you have a gap of up to four tvachim? Says that's not our point. Our point is not that the gap is going to create lava. That's not that's not our point. Our point is the size of this wall. Is this considered a real mechitza? So in between 3 and 4 tvachim, this wall is already considered. In other words, once this wall becomes 4 tvachim, then this wall is considered a mechitza, and you can plan next to it. What if it's in between 3 and 4? So, what did we say? Yeah, it's still not good enough. Unless you have the right spaces. Once it's 4 tvachim, then even if there is a large space, then the wall still is considered a wall. So our point of 4 tvachim here was not to tell me a din in lavet. Our point was to tell me that a mechitza, 4 tvachim is already a mechitza. That was our point. Okay. Rava takes it the other way. Rava Amid the Sefer Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, Reish Amir Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Now we're going to be in trouble. Lavet is 4 tvachim. Why do you tell me 3 tvachim? Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Amrinan Lavet. When did Reb Shimon ben Gamliel say that Lavet is 4 tvachim? Hanimil Lamaila. That's a borrowed opinion that we got when we said that a kaira, a crossbeam that goes from one wall to another wall, if there's a gap of 4 tvachim, it's still considered lavud. That's where Shimon ben Gamliel said that. However, but on a regular wall on the ground, if you have a gap of 3 tvachim, since the goats can walk through that without being blocked, then we don't say lavud over there. I said lavud 4 tvachim. That was above, where there's no goats that are going to fly through that gap. When do I say Lavet is 3 tvachim? In other words, even Reb Shimon ben Gamliel holds Lavet is 3 tvachim. As something that's on the ground. Something up there up there on the roof, then we say Lavet is 4 tvachim. Okay. Tashma. Fanas alal shubim tzachim achalainis mutter. Levad shei oimid meruba laparetz. Yeah, we quoted this before. If you have walls that have many, or majority, it sounds like, majority of windows and doorways, so it's still considered a wall, as long as there's more space, as long as there's more wall than open space. Is it possible that you have majority windows and doorways? And then the Gemara asked before that it's a contradiction. If you have majority windows and doorways, then of course you have majority open space. How do you say as long as you can't have 2 majorities? So doesn't mean majority. Riba means an increase. You increase the amount of doorways and windows. So there's a lot of doorways and windows in this wall. This mutter. As long as you don't have more open space than the walls, or rather the opposite, as long as you have more walls than open space. But let's say it was half and half. And it's also. You said you need to have majority wall.
Rabbi Smith, why would a window be considered an open space?
1 second. Go ahead.
Why would a window be considered an open space? Especially if there's wall underneath it and wall above it.
We'll see soon. It's possible it doesn't have a Tzuras of Pesach, but we'll see soon that if the gap is larger than 3 tvachim, then it's considered open.
But the term window applies to me, there's a wall underneath it. Am I wrong?
Yeah. But if the gap, what you're asking is that it should be all considered door frames.
Now I'm asking why a window makes a wall not a wall.
It's not making it not a wall. It's just making it open. In other words, you need to have mostly closed. It's still a wall. In other words, if you would have it's not considered closed unless it's within 3 tvachim. That's considered solid. It could still be considered open. Now, Tzuras Pesach was like a wild card. How does the Tzuras Pesach work? Does that make it closed or not? So Pesachim, let me look up what's the pshat. Pesachim, it didn't tell me that it's a delases or something, or Tzuras Pesach. Pesachim could just mean an opening. It's an entranceway. Let me look up what what's the pshat chalenis. Usually a window has a frame over the top, which should be a Tzuras Pesach. The point that the Gemara is bringing out, as we said, as long as you have more solid than open. But if it would be equal, then it would be aser. You need to have more solid than open. Tifta Rav Papa, Tzakash and Rav Papa. Now, this whole discussion here was Machlekes Rav Papa and Rav Yeshua, Haretz Ka'imit. If you have exactly the same amount open as solid, Rav Yeshua said that it was aser, which is what we're seeing from this Mishnah. And Rav Papa said that it's mutter. It's a kasha on Rav Papa. Gemara says Tiyufta v'hilchsa kavaseder Rav Papa. It's a strong kasha on Rav Papa, and the halacha is like Rav Papa. Gemara says Tiyufta v'hilchsa. How do you do that? You just said this. He's upgefragt, upgeschlagen. Right? There's no answer to that. It's refuted. So. And then you tell me that v'hilchasa. Gemara says in. Yeah, it's correct. The daika masnisim kavasei, because the Mishnah fits like him. Why? Our Mishnah said the Tanan le'yi pratzis yiseris alabinyan. You can't have more open than closed. That expression, more open than closed, means that half and half is okay. Hakibinyan, but if it would be equal, then it would be mutter. That was the mission that we had on Tesvav Amid Beis. You can't have more. So we're going to follow the Mishnah. We mentioned this before, that some of the poskim feel that the Rambam paskins, well, the scholars think that the Rambam always paskins like the best pshat in the Mishnah. The Gemara's best pshat in the Mishnah. That's how what's the most simple pshat in the Mishnah is how the Rambam paskins. That's what they think. Anyway, here the Gemara is telling us that the pshat in the Mishnah, the simple pshat in the Mishnah would be not like Rav Papa. That it would be equal. It would be. It would be like Rav Papa. That it would be, if it's equal, then it would be mutter. Equal. Solid to open space. We have a new Mishnah now. This whole sugya was Paretz Ka'imid. What happens if it's equal? The Mishnah says, Makifin shleisha chavalim zelam alam yisev, zelam alam yisev, v'akshli ben chaval chaver shleisha tvachim. We're going to see, we're talking about a caravan that's traveling and they want to be able to carry in the camp that they just created on Shabbos. They stopped somewhere. So what they do is they put a pole in the ground and edges of the camp, and they take a rope and they wrap the rope around. They take 3 ropes, and they need a mechitza of 10 tvachim. So every 3 tvachim they put a string. It's only going to get you 9, right? We'll see in a moment. Shir chavalim, and how thick is the chaval? Va'ivyan. Yeser va'ivyan. How are you supposed to say? Yeser al tefach. Kadesh yakol asar tefachim. The combination of all three. So you're not using actually a string. You're using like a ribbon. That way you have some thickness there. And together, each one would be about a third of a tefach. So to its spice, I don't know what it is, depending on which aspect. So you'll be able to have a total of 10, because you have a gap of just about three, plus the space of the ribbons themselves, the strings themselves, will be that 10th tefach. That's regarding if you do it with ropes going horizontally. Let's say you do it the other way. Makifim bekanim. Let's say you don't use ropes. You use sticks in the ground. You send the kids around, go collect sticks. They collect the sticks, and then what are you going to do? You put sticks in the ground every 3 tvachim. You need a lot of sticks, but you'll put them in the ground every 3 tvachim, and you'll be able to have the entirely fenced in. Shayara dibru. Each stick needs to be 10 tvachim tall, so it's not an easy thing. This is talking about a caravan. Divri Rabbi Yehuda. By a caravan, you can use, it's called Shesi or Eruv. The Kanim is the Eruv, just going vertically. And the Shesi would be the ropes going around. Shesi, in some modern vowels. Okay. This is not a leniency. Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is that this is a special leniency. Usually you need lattice. It needs to be crisscross. You need to be able to have Shesi and Eruv as a wall. Otherwise, just going one way is not really a wall. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. The Chachamim say, no, it is a wall. Rabbi Yehuda says that it's only a wall in a case of a caravan where you don't have the options of get lattice. You have to do this quickly. It's Friday afternoon. You have to set up an Eruv. You're going to move around and carry things. So they gave you a heter, a shayara. Chachamim say no. Going one direction is good enough. Why? So why was this Mishnah said about a shayara? Said the shayara. That was the case. So apparently this was an older Mishnah that is now being discussed by Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim. They got a hold of this Mishnah, and Rabbi Yehuda says this Mishnah was taught regarding a shayara, and that's specific. The Chachamim say this Mishnah was taught regarding a shayara because that happened to be the case when they had the shaila, and that's what they were discussing. Now it says Kol mechitza sheni shel shesi v'shel Eruv mechitza divrei Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda. Sounds just like his father. What's the difference? We'll see. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda says that any mechitza that doesn't go both directions, vertical and horizontal, is not a mechitza, which means that he holds, even for a shayara, it's no good. His father, Rabbi Yehuda, was mater for a shayara for a caravan. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda is more strict than that. They get frumer. Okay. The Chachamim say no, either one, either a Shesi or an Eruv, it doesn't matter. Now it sounds like the Chachamim is the same as the first Chachamim. That's only Haifa. The Gemara is going to say at the end that it depends if we're talking about an individual in that's not traveling, that there still is a difference between the two. We'll see when we get to the Gemara. Amar Rav Amnuna Amar Rav. Rav Amnuna says in the name of Rav, Ari Amru, they've taught that Aymed Birbal Aparetz B'Shasi. The Shasi is the kanim, the posts. You have sticks in the ground. So if I surround the area with sticks every 3 tvachim, but there's a gap, and the gaps are less than the amount of area that's complete. So then it's going to be kosher. It doesn't need to be 100% solid. Let's see if there's a picture here for us. What is that discussion? Yeah. Okay, so we're looking at these pictures. This is going both ways. This is going one way. So if there's gaps here, if there would be gaps in this, as long as it would be more solid, then it would be fine. However, Rav Hamnuna's question is, what about the arif? What about if there's gaps in the rope that's going around in the horizontal mechitza, where every 3 tvachim you put up a rope? What if there's gaps in that? How do you have gaps? They have to have posts, that would be gaps. The Gemara doesn't understand it like that. The Gemara understands that the gap could be within the ropes themselves. Like this. If I have, see here, it's not perfectly even. See, either I'll have the gap on the bottom, I'll have under 3 tvachim, 2.9 there, 2.9 there, and then I'll have a gap over here of more than 3 tvachim. So there's more solid than the breached, than the gap. Or you do it over here, you do it on top. It'll be more solid than the breached. The bottom is 6 almost, and the top is just a little over 3. Other option is that it's in the center. That would be the gap, and then it would be 3 and 3, and then the gap would be a little under 4 or whatever. This would be 4. So 3, 3, and 4 would be 10, but there would be a gap somewhere here. That's what the Gemara is asking. What about that case? Majority of the horizontal of the wall is full, but partially it's open. I don't know, Reb Naftali, if this helps your question with the windows. I was asking here, even though that you have a string going on the top, that's going along on the top, but it's still considered open. It's not considered solid. So, what's the halacha? Amar Abaya. Abaya says Tashma. Shir chavalim v'oivin yasher al tafach. Shir kol asar tvachim. The thickness of the string needs to be the thickness of a tefach, all 3 strings together, so that there should be 3, 3, 3, which is 9, plus that 1 tefach will equal 10 tefachim. That's 10 tefachim, 10 handbreadths high above the ground. That's considered a partition. And if you accept, if it is true that you only need the majority, you don't really need 100%. Lama li yasser al tefach. Why does it need to be a thickness of more than a tefach or a tefach? Liyavet pachas mishleisha v'chevel mashu. Why don't you make less than 3 tefachim from the ground? Pachas mishleisha v'chevel mashu. Another less than 3 tefachim from string 1 to string 2. Another less than 3 tefachim. So I have now closed off approximately 6 tefachim. Pachas me'arba v'chevel mashu. And then I have on the top 4 tefachim with the string. So 6 to 4 is majority closed off. 6 is more than 4. So I have majority of the wall is solid. Easy. Gemara says, "V'tizbara, do you really think so? Hai pachas me'arba heichem mukimla. Where do you put the 4? Where do you want to put the gap? Imukim latatai. Let's say you put it on the bottom. In other words, the strings that have a gap of 3 tvachim each, those are on the top. And the bottom has the opening of 4. Well, that's a problem. But we just learned about that. That's not acceptable. It's on the ground. The goats can go under. We're not going to say that it's good over there. That's not going to be considered a wall. Let's see. Okay, so put it on the top. I'll say I have a problem. If I put the gap on the top, so the string is going to become batal. The string is very thin. We said that when you have on both sides of it a larger gap than the material itself, it's going to become nullified. So if I put it on the top, if I put it on the bottom, so I have a solid structure right above it. And then I have the ground. So I have 6 tvachim above and 4 tvachim under. I don't say that the 6 become batal because underneath was 4 tvachim gap. 4 to 6, it's going to be good. Only on one side I have the ear all the way up to the heavens. But on one side it's not mevatal this. But if I put it on the top, so I have just the string that goes above the top. I'm under the string, I have 4 tvachim. Above the string, I have all the air up all the way up to the sky. So both sides are larger than the string. It's going to be, the string should be batal. So let's put it in the center. So I'll have 3, and then 3 on the bottom, and 4 in the center. So if that's the case, you would be teaching me a very interesting halacha, which we had a question before. If you say this, it was a machlekes. Do you say oimed meruba al aparetz from 2 sides? In other words, the gap in the middle is much larger than the 2 sides, but combined than each of the 2 sides. But the 2 sides combined are larger than the gap. Do I say that works? You would have a good raya. If you're going to say that it works, then you would have a raya that the combination of the 2 solids that are on the side is larger than the parts. You would have an answer to that. We don't have an answer to that, so we have to leave that. That wasn't Rav Hamnuna's shaila. This took us all on this trip of what the shaila was, of where you're going to have the 4 tefachim, then because it's 3 plus 3, and then you have a 4 of a gap. His shaila was like this. You take a mat that's 7 tefachim plus a little bit, a little over 7 tefachim, which means that if I hang it, it's going to be within 3 tefachim of the ground. It'll be 10 tefachim tall and within 3 tefachim of the ground. V'chakak b'gimel. And I cut a hole in it, cut a window in it. V'shavak badala d'mashu. Let's take a look at the picture. Okay, so we didn't like these. These answers weren't really working. So, I thought I saw the picture. Oh, there, this is the picture. Here I have a mat. It's 7 tefachim. From the bottom of the mat to the top is 7 tefachim. In the middle was cut out a strip, which is 3 tefachim. It's not considered closed. It's considered a window. I have majority closed because I have 4 tvachim on the top. Then I have on the bottom, I have 3 tvachim because that little strip on the bottom is within 3 tvachim of the ground. top doesn't become batal because it's not a string. If it would be a string, the top would be batal. The top is a real mat, it's 4 tvachim. So this is not batal, this is totally 3 tvachim. This is totals 3 tvachim on the bottom. So his question is, we have Eimid Meruba Laparetz. Do we say that this works? Going horizontally. Eimid Meruba Laparetz horizontally. That's what we've created. We've created the shaila of Eimid Meruba Laparetz horizontally. Is that what you're showing us, Dr. Stein? Yeah, here's a more elaborate picture. You see Dr. Stein's, let's see if I can do that. Yeah, this is more elaborate. Here I have the 4 tvachim, Oimid Arba Mashil, and on the bottom is a strip of the mat that's within 3 tvachim of the ground. And then I have a complete 3 tvachim open. So what we're seeing is Eimid Meruba Laparetz in a horizontal way. That's the shaila. Okay. Okay. Oops. Let's see if this works now. I didn't do that before, so I don't know how this is supposed to work. Okay. Rav Ashi Amar Mechitza Tliya B'Oila. Rav Ashi says, no, this is really an old machlokes. It's a Mechitza Tliya. It's an old shaila. If you have a Mechitza that's hanging, now Mechitza that's hanging means that I have a total Mechitza. I have 10 tvachim. That's not, my issue is not that you didn't create a Mechitza yet. I have a real Mechitza. Only thing is, it's hanging. That was his question. Notice you have a big gap all along the bottom. Does it work in a broken down house? So Amalei Mechitza, this is what Rav Tabla asked Rav. He says, if it's going over water, then it's considered a mechitza. It's special leniency regarding getting water. It has to do with getting water. If in a sheared pit, if you made an Eruv with the neighbor, you say it's your water, you say you're taking his water. If there's a mechitza over it, we say it's your water. It's not, you didn't need the Eruv there. Okay. So we had 2 possibilities of what the shaila of Rav Hamnuna was. One was that it's Eimid Meruba Laparetz in a horizontal way because of that window, and which is 3 tvachim, and the solid was 4, and the other or closer to 7 if you count the bottom, and then. The other possibility was the shaila was a mechitza tzliya. Makifim bekanim chulu said that you could surround the caravan area with sticks in the ground. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. B'shayari and b'yachud loy. That's only. It sounds like you can only do it with a caravan. It says clearly, special heter by a caravan, but not by an individual. One guy traveling can't just use sticks. But Tanya, 1 second. You have a brisa that says Rabbi Yehuda Mekom Mechitza Shabbos Leitir Liyachid Yesem Beis Hasayim. Every mechitza that works on Shabbos works for an individual, but as long as it's not larger than a Beis Hasayim, 100 by 50. 100 by 50 amos. That's the area of the Mishkan. Works out 70 by 70. But that's the area. If it's under that, then it should work. What are you telling me that it only works for a caravan? You told me it works. It works for an individual. If it's not larger, it should work. So the Gemara answers, Kadam Rav Nachman became Rabbi Barbai, Leinitzcha Litnem Kol Tzorka, Nachanam Litnem Kol Tzorka. You're right. It does work. We're just saying that it can't be larger than a base of Sion. By a caravan, it could be larger than a base of Sion, however much area they need for all their things and all of that. But by an individual, it cannot be larger than a base of Sion. They don't get called tzorkan. They don't get, if they need a larger area, they can't do it. They have to surround just less than a base of Sion for an individual. Where was the original statement where you said that for a caravan it could be larger than this area of 100 by 50, and it could be considered a mechitza? And as we said, that there's a problem with having a large park. However, for this caravan, it's not a problem because they're using all of that open area with their things that they're schlepping. Where was that stated? So we said, Ahaditanan on the following Mishnah, Kol mechitza shein shel sesi ve'Eiruvin mechitza. Tibra b'yesi Rabbi Yehuda. Any mechitza that's not crisscross, that doesn't go both horizontally and vertically, is not considered a mechitza. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yesi bar Rabbi Yehuda. And the Gemara asks, Miyam Rabbi Yesi bar Yehuda hachi? Does Rabbi Yesi bar Yehuda say that? V'atanya echad yachad v'echad shiyar l'chavalim. We have a brisa that says, whether it's an individual or it's a caravan, ropes, horizontal ropes that surround the area works. What is the difference if it's an individual or a caravan? If it's one person, he has up to 100 by 50. That's the area that he can mark off. If it's two people that are traveling together, they can get also 100 by 50. Gimel, once you have a third person there, Nasu Shayara, they become a caravan. And you can have 6 that would be
what was the last word? You can have what?
Sa is a measurement of grain that we're using to measure a land. The way they would measure land was how much grain they could sow in that land.
Okay,
So
thank you.
They measured land by like a bushel. That's a bushel of land.
Right.
A bushel of land. Well, that's the amount of grain that you could be sown in that land.
Right. Okay.
We
I
worked
get
it
it.
out.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
No, I get it. Thank you.
But we worked it out that it's 100 by 50. Every sa is a 50 by 50. 100 by 50 is 2 sa. So it would be 300 by 50, right? Would be 6 sa. So, well, nice long strip of land. Or you could divide it the other way also. You can spread it out. So that's what you get if there's 3 people. That's Rabbi Yesi bar Rabbi Yehuda. Well, it's a little bit of a problem. Rabbi Yesi bar Rabbi Yehuda says it doesn't even work at all in our Mishnah. He says that a mechitza just of one rope, a rope going horizontally is not a good mechitza. Now you're telling me that it depends. 1, 2, 3, if they get a certain amount, doesn't make sense. Some say no, you give everyone whatever they need as long as they don't have empty space of a base saw. In other words, in the picture, let's be clearer. That's a base Sosayim. Yeah, here you have a fellow. This is the area that he marked off. Here's a base Sosayim. According to the Chachamim, they have all their things spread out everywhere, but they can't have a base saw, a 50 by 50 base saw empty. No, but it's a base Sosayim punny. They can't have a 50 by 100, which is a 70 by 70, 70 point something by 70. That's that can't be empty. If you notice, their articles are not in that area. That's a problem. Back to our question, Because Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda holds that you can't make a mechitza out of ropes. Now you said you can make a mechitza out of ropes. What it means is you can't make a mechitza out of ropes larger than a base of sign, but you can make a mechitza out of ropes. And if you wanted to make an area larger than a base of sign, then you need solid walls. It doesn't need to be solid. It just needs to be a crisscross, like that you can do even larger. Now it can't be a park because a park is hukaf ladira. Is not hukaf ladira. It wasn't surrounded for a living area. Here you're surrounding it for a living area. The only thing is it's just very large. So if you want to make an area surrounded so that's larger than this, then you need to have a lattice type thing where it's going both directions. If you just want to use one direction, then it has to be smaller. I used to make my sukkah with like picket fences type things, but it was there were a lot of spaces in between. Someone came to my sukkah once and said, "You're not allowed to do that because you don't have it going both directions." And I had the top of it opened, Florida type of top is open, and I got a 10 tefachim fence to go along, and it was just going one direction. So I put a beam across, and I was always wondering, is that enough? One beam across is going to help, or do I need every 3 tefachim a beam across? Yeah, that's what this Gemara is discussing. Does it work? The Magen Avraham held, I had a problem with that sukkah. The Magen Avraham held that if you do make a sukkah, we're jumping here, sukkah, you do make a sukkah that's going only one direction, then you can't have any leniencies of only 3 walls. You need mamish 4 walls. That's what he held. Yeah, things get a little complicated. You don't do it traditionally. Okay.
With that story, that the picture that you showed that had the 75 by 75 empty, I wasn't clear with the reason for that.
Yeah, the problem is that area was not hukaf ladira. That area was not being used. So in other words, the Chachamim say that we don't care, even if there's one person there, or 2 people there, you can have the largest area you want, as much as you need. You can have a very large, as long as that you actually need it. You can't just surround like a larger area that's not being used, because then that area becomes like a park and it doesn't work. In other words, an area around the park, it's too large. It's too large of an empty area. You can't make it into a Rishus HaYachid just like that. It needs to be hukaf ladira, an area that's being dwelled in and all. So they don't limit you, the Chachamim, but they just still tell you that it has to be used. If you need it, then it's good. Okay. Darash Rav Nachman Yishum Reb Shmuel, we're on a new Gemara here. 2 dots. Rav Nachman taught in the name of Rabbeinu Shmuel. That sounds like Shmuel. His teacher was Shmuel, so. Oh, there's another Gersa. Yishum Rabbeinu. Umani, and who is that? Shmuel. That's on the side, they have that Gersa. Okay. Yachid, nice and like Beisasayim. If there's one person there and he wants to mark off his area that he's going to be, he should be able to carry. So he gets a Beisasayim, he gets 50 by 100. Beis, nice and like Beisasayim. If there's 2 people, you get a Beis Hasayim. Gimel Nasa Shiyav, nice and Beis Sheish. There's 3 people, you get 6. 50 by 300. Gemara asks, Shafkas Rabbanan Vadas Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda. What are you doing? You're paskening like the individual. Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda, he held that a shayara, a caravan, which is 3 people, only gets 6, which is 50 by 100. That's the amount that they can use. But the Chachamim said that however amount they needed. Rav Nachman set up an interpreter, or an announcer, to be able to announce what the teacher says. That's how they would teach. They would have someone with a loud voice. He says, I I made a mistake. Goes like this. Ram, however, Kachamru, this is what they said. Yachid Naisna Beisosayim, it's true, an individual gets 100 by 50. Shnayim, if there's two people there, Naisna Beisosayim, he gets 100 by 50. Shleisha, there's three people. Nasu Shayara, they become a caravan. Naisnam Kaltzarkim, they get whatever they want. When it says, 1 second. Now, when it came to one person or two people, you pass like Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Yehuda that it's limited. When it came to three people, you pass like the Chachamim. It says that it's unlimited, however much they need. It says it's true. Because when it comes to a caravan, there's a machlekes. When it came to one person or two people, both Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda, his father, they agree that you can't make an unlimited size when it came to one or two people. When it came to a caravan, then there's a machlekes. We don't go like that machlekes. We go like the Chachamim that say, we go like the Chachamim, which even Rabbi Yehuda agrees to. Rabbi Yehuda agrees to the Chachamim in that case, that says that it's unlimited, however much they need. Amar Rav Gidl Amar Rav Shleisha. Rav Gidl taught in the name of Rav, sort of like cryptic statement, and we're going to need to figure out what it means. It says if there's three people, b'chamish asurim, 5 sa is going to be a problem. That means 50 by 250 is going to be a problem. B'sheva, but if there's 50 by 350, that's mutarim. That's going to be allowed. Well, that's like very strange. 3 people need to have a smaller area. Sounds like 250 is too much. But if they have 350, it's fine. What's going on? Amrulay, Amar Rav Hachi. Rav really said that? Asked Rav Gidl. Amalu, he says, Eiruvin Daf Ksivi. And that's like, he swears by a Tanakh. Turn Nevi'im and Ksuvim. It says, Amar Rav Hachi, Rav Taka said that. Amar Rav Ashi, my kasha, Rav Ashi says, what's the big deal? I can figure this out. It's a riddle, but I can figure it out. It says, Dilma Hachi Kamer, this is what it means. Let's say they needed 6, an area of 6, which is 300, 50 by 300. Amos. Bekifu b'sheva, but they surrounded it by 7. So there's an extra 50 there. Amos. So afilu b'sheva mutarim. Then it's mutar. Why? Because you don't have an extra 100 amos. A base sasayim. You only have a base saw that's extra. What passes it? An empty base sasayim. Here you have an empty base saw. They needed 6 and you have 7. So far no problem. But if they only needed 5, bikifu b'sheva, and they surrounded it by 7 to 350, they only needed 250 and they have 350. You can't even use the 5. So 5 are forbidden, but 7 is permissible if they needed 6. So 7 is the problem if they only needed 5. And even the 5 become muscle. This that it taught, as long as there's no basis sayim empty. What does it mean? How do you have a basis sayim empty? We think that we're talking about that every person would take up 2 sa. That's why it's considered hukaf ladira. If you have 2 sa, then for each 2 sa for each person. 100 amos by 50 amos would be his living area. Now, if I have 3 people, then I have 6 besa. So that's what we started off. What are you telling me? 3 people that don't need 5. We're assuming that they could spread out, and each one would take besa. That would be they would have 6. And also, what does it mean? Yeah, they would have 6 besa. One says, no, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about people taking up that area. We're talking about loy panami kalim. We're talking about that they need the air. We don't know how many people take up each base. That's not what we're not dividing it up like that. We're talking about how much how many items they have that they're going to spread out and they're going to surround. So for that, we have no limit. It could be 3 people in a small area. It could be larger. We have no limit. Depends on how much they're traveling with, how many suitcases they have. Hey, it's my very interesting Gemara here. Let's see how far we can get in this. If you have 3 people, so you have special heterim with 3 people, you can have larger areas, etc. If you have only 2 people, you're limited to a base saw. So you started off with 3 people and you have a nice large area. The problem is, start off with 3, one of them dies. It's the middle of Shabbos, and your area is too large for 2 people to have to be mutter. Or let's say the other way. Shnayim, you started off with 2, and the area was too large. However, when you taisvu alayim, and another person showed up to make it kosher, but it's already Shabbos. So Rav Huna Rabbi Yitzchak, machlekes Rav Huna Rabbi Yitzchak, Chadam Shabbos Geremes. One says it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is when Shabbos came in, what you had. So if one died, you're all set. Not you're all set. Your Eruv is set because you had 3 at the beginning. If someone shows up, you're in trouble. It wasn't good at the beginning. Another one says Chadam or Durin garment. It depends what you have exactly at the moment. One died, your area is too large. If someone showed up, okay, now you could use it. This time, the Rav Huna Damar Shabbos Gremis let us prove that Rav Huna is the one that's of the opinion that it's Shabbos that makes a difference. Damar Rabba said, Boy me Rav Huna. I asked the question from Rav Huna, Boy me Rav Yehuda, and I also asked the question from Rav Yehuda. My question was like this. Erev derech ha-pesach v'nistam ha-pesach, derech ha-chlein v'nistam ha-chlein ma'al. Let's say I made an Erev, because the area was connected. And so I put the Erev in a certain house. Then that wall got closed off, the doorway got closed off, or the window got closed off. And I don't have that same connection to that house that I had before. What about in the rest of the area? Did I lose my Erev? So he responded, Ramali Shabbos hayel v'hutra hutra. When Shabbos came in, it was connected, it stays connected. See, Rav Huna holds it goes after the beginning of Shabbos, this time let it be settled. Where it says, Lema, Rav Huna Rabbi Yitzchak beplukta, the Rabbi Yitzchak Rabbi the Kamiflagi. Let's say that this machlekes goes back to an earlier machlekes. What's the earlier machlekes? The Tanan was taught in the Mishnah. The walls of the house collapsed, 2 walls, the walls of the courtyard collapsed, or the mavi, the kaira fell down, or the lechi fell down. You can still continue using that area for the rest of Shabbos, but not the next Shabbos. That's different Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi Aimer, Rabbi Yossi says, if it's good that Shabbos, then why isn't it good future? And if you can't use it next Shabbos, then it should be Asr. Rabbi Yossi doesn't tell us exactly what he wants to say. We know what he says is that it's Asr. Rabbi Yossi says it's Asr, Rabbi Yehuda says it's Mutter. Why? It's Mutter because when Shabbos came in, it was Mutter. Well, Rav Huna would hold like Rabbi Yehuda. When Shabbos comes in, it's Mutter. It stays Mutter the rest of Shabbos. And Rabbi Yitzchak would go like Rabbi Yossi that says that it collapsed and it's no good. And you have to recognize, one is talking about the amount of people. The other one is talking about the enclosure. And we're comparing them. We're saying it's the same thing. So the Gemara says like this, not necessarily is it the same. Starts off, let's say that it matches up perfect. Gemara says no. Rav Huna will respond to you. I said that it goes after the amount of people. But really, I could really go like Rabbi Yossi that says that it's Asr on Shabbos. If the walls collapse, if the kaira falls down. Adkan, like Rabbi Yossi Hassam. Rabbi Yossi only said that over there. That's because the walls collapsed. However, in my case, the walls didn't collapse. Just a person died. Or someone showed up. Or whatever. But the walls are still there. Maybe Rabbi Yossi was only discussing his thing regarding walls. Rabbi Yitzchak would say the opposite. I know Rabbi Yehuda allowed that house to be used on Shabbos, even though the walls collapsed. But really, he would hold like me that if someone died, that it becomes Asr immediately. Ad kan like Rabbi Yudasam al
What's
Disney
the purpose if someone shows up? What is the problem there? I mean, if it was good for 2 people, if it's good for 3 people, okay. So a 4th person comes, fine. What's the big deal? Maybe I missed something, but I don't get what an extra person is going to cause an issue.
What we did was we said that a large area needs to have 3 people there to be mutter.
Right.
So here what happened was we started with 3 people, but one of them died. And now the area is too large for only 2 people.
Right.
The opposite. If we started with 2 people and we enclosed it in too large of an area, so they really
and then
can't
someone
use
comes
it.
in the middle of Shabbos.
Everything they did was for naught. And someone shows up and they say, "Oh, great! Now we can use our mechitza. We can use our Eiruvin." So Rabbi
On
Yitzchak
Shabbos,
says it's
meaning
no.
the person shows up on Shabbos.
Yeah, Rabbi Yitzchak said that it's good because it depends on what you look at right now, and Rav Huna said it's no good because everything depends on when Shabbos comes in. So
I got it. I missed something.
So
Rabbi-
another Rabbi Yehuda can like Rabbi Dasmel additional diurim. Rabbi Yehuda only said that because the people are there. Hacha less no diurim, but he says Rabbi Yehuda would agree that it's no good here because we don't have right mechitzas. Let me just finish this. Dr. Stein.
Why is it any different from we have a minyan in shul, guy walks out, someone else walks in? We had 9, all of a sudden we can do, or let's say 2 left out. All right.
We're talking about an Eiruvin, not a minyan.
That's interesting.
But I'm bringing a raya from minyan. Abi, show up on time. Thank you very much.
What's the halacha by a minyan if someone walks out? Can you finish?
You can finish if you're left with 9. I'm not sure if it's with 8. That's why I made that last minute. But I'm not more halacha l'fnei rabbo, so don't ask me the question.
The Chacham say that you can have either a shesi or an Erev, you can have sticks, or you can have the string going around. That was the first opinion. It could be now Yachid B'Yishuv. The difference is if it's an individual and he's not traveling, that according to the first opinion, he needs to be traveling. It's a shayara, but we didn't make a difference. According to the second opinion, it doesn't matter. Anywhere where he is, it's going to be good. Okay. We'll have to leave it there.